The sterile hum of the International Airport customs area is a dull thrum against your temples, a constant, low-frequency reminder of endless arrivals and departures, of lives in transit. You stand apart, a solitary sentinel amidst the ebb and flow of humanity, your gaze sweeping over the tired faces, the hopeful smiles, the anxious glances of those queuing to declare their burdens or their treasures. The air tastes of recycled oxygen and faint disinfectant, a scent that clings to the frayed edges of your memory, a ghost of countless journeys taken and never truly finished. Your worn leather jacket, a second skin, feels heavy on your shoulders, a familiar weight that mirrors the one settled deep in your chest. Beneath its collar, the faint scar tissue above your left eyebrow pulses with a phantom ache, a souvenir from a night you try not to revisit, a wound that never truly healed. Marcus Thorne, they once called you, with a reverence that now feels like a cruel jest. Now, you are just Marcus, a shadow of the man who once wore a badge like a sacred trust. The fluorescent lights overhead cast a harsh, unforgiving glare, highlighting the fine lines etched around your eyes, the silver threads weaving through your dark hair. You trace the rim of a lukewarm coffee cup, the ceramic ruff beneath your thumb, a small, grounding anchor in the swirling chaos. Each face that passes seems to hold a fragment of a story, none as broken, perhaps, as your own. You've become adept at this, observing without engaging, existing on the periphery, a forgotten fixture in the grand theater of travel. A sudden flash of movement catches your eye, not from the impatient lines, but from the periphery, near the opaque glass of an office. A figure detaches itself from the uniformed crowd, moving with a deliberate, almost predatory grace. The suit is dark, impeccably tailored, a stark contrast to the casual wear of the travelers. Your instincts, dulled but not entirely extinguished, prickle. This isn't a traveler. This is a hunter. There's no surprise in their gaze, only a grim recognition, as if they expected to find you exactly here, precisely like this. You don't flinch, don't break eye contact, merely lift the coffee cup to your lips, a silent challenge. The man stops a few feet away, close enough for you to discern the faint scent of expensive cologne, the subtle tension in his jaw. Marcus Thorne, the voice is a low rumble, devoid of inflection, yet it cuts through the airport's drone with an unnerving clarity. It's not a question, but a statement, an assertion of your identity that feels both invasive and oddly inevitable. It's been a long time. You offer no reply, merely a slow blink, a tacit acknowledgement of the obvious. The years have indeed been long, stretched thin by the phantom echoes of a case that shattered your world. The journalist. The dead ends, the missing pieces, the suffocating weight of failure. The man takes another step closer, invading the fragile bubble of your self-imposed isolation. We have reason to believe the matter concerning the journalist, Elaine Vance, has resurfaced. The name hits you like a physical blow, a shard of ice in your gut. Elaine Vance. The one that got away, the one that broke you. Not for me. A flicker, almost imperceptible, of something like regret crosses the man's face, quickly masked. New information has come to light. Information that points to a larger structure. Something far more intricate than we initially understood. He pauses, letting the words hang in the air, heavy with unspoken implications. A prominent politician, on the cusp of a presidential campaign. And a network, operating in the highest echelons, pulling the strings. Your eyes narrow. The casual mention of such powerful entities, spoken so calmly in the mundane setting of an airport, sends a shiver down your spine. This isn't a routine inquiry.
This is a clandestine summons. And what does that have to do with me? I'm out. A ghost.
Precisely, the man counters, his voice gaining a subtle edge.
A ghost is hard to trace. Hard to connect. And you, Marcus, you know the original file better than anyone. He places it on the small, circular table beside you, pushing it gently towards your hand. Consider this an unofficial consultation. A chance to finish what you started. To find the truth you were denied. Your gaze drops to the envelope, its plain surface concealing potential truths, or perhaps, further deceptions. The weight of the past presses down, the shame of that unsolved case, the gnawing certainty that you missed something crucial. But beneath the shame, a faint ember, long thought extinguished, begins to glow. A chance. A chance to finally lay Elaine Vance to rest, to reclaim a piece of yourself you thought was lost forever. It's dangerous, you state, your voice flat, testing the waters. More than you can imagine, the man confirms, his eyes holding yours, unflinching. But you've never shied from danger, Marcus. Your fingers instinctively close around the envelope, the paper cool and crisp against your skin. The weight in your chest shifts, replaced by a different kind of burden, one that feels both terrifying and undeniably familiar. The choice is yours, Marcus, to remain a ghost, or to step back into the harrowing light of a world that once broke you. The tension in the air is palpable, a silent promise of the storm to come. The plain envelope, a silent challenge, hums with an almost imperceptible vibration in your hand. The paper, crisp against your fingertips, feels heavy with unspoken histories, with the ghosts of decisions long past. You trace the unadorned surface, the absence of a return address a stark declaration of its clandestine origin. Beneath the gnawing certainty that you missed something crucial years ago, that failure a cold knot in your gut, a faint ember, long thought extinguished, now glows. Not hope, not yet, but a persistent flicker of curiosity, a need for answers that transcends the bitterness. The call comes hours later, a number you don't recognize, yet you answer. A voice, low and gravelly, speaks your name. Marcus Thorne.
There is no preamble, no small talk.
The journalist. The case. It's not cold anymore. Your grip tightens on the receiver, knuckles white. What are you talking about? The words are a rasp in your throat. Meet me. Gate C, midnight. Come alone. Don't draw attention. The line clicks dead before you can press for details. Fluorescent lights cast a pallid glow over tired faces, over luggage carousels that spin with the slow rhythm of the world turning. The air smells of recycled oxygen and distant coffee. Every uniformed officer, every weary traveler, every hurried attendant becomes a potential signal, a potential threat. The tension coils in your chest, a familiar, unwelcome guest. Then you see him. A man leaning against a frosted glass partition near Gate C, his face obscured by the brim of a fedora pulled low. He's reading a newspaper, but his eyes, when they flicker up, are sharp, direct. He meets your gaze, a silent acknowledgement, and then gestures subtly towards a less trafficked corner, a quiet eddy in the flow of the customs area. He doesn't look up until you are close. Thorne, he says, his voice the same gravelly tone from the phone call. His face, now visible in the muted light, is etched with lines, the eyes weary but alert. He's a man who has seen too much, like you. He doesn't offer a name, and you don't ask. They want you back on it. Unofficially. Off the books. No badge, no pension. Just answers.
Who are they, you question, your voice low, a tremor of defiance in its depths. He slides a worn leather satchel across the floor towards your feet. The people who believe the original findings were
incomplete.
The ones who remember the journalist, his work. And the people who now see the threads tying his death to something much larger.
He pauses, his gaze unwavering. A certain presidential candidate. You pick it up, the weight of physical manifestation of the burden you're about to assume. Inside, bound in faded manila folders, are the original case files. Old photographs, grainy black and white images of the crime scene, of the brilliant investigative journalist's lifeless form. The face stares up at you, eyes wide with a final, horrified understanding. A face you remember, a case that still haunts your sleep. You flip through the pages, the scent of old paper and dust filling your nostrils. Interrogation transcripts, forensic reports, witness statements. Your fingers brush over a crumpled newspaper clipping, yellowed with age, detailing the journalist's expose on corporate malfeasance. Next to it, a photo of a minor political aide, a junior staffer in a campaign office from years ago. Back then, it was dismissed. A random act of violence. But now. He trails off, letting the unspoken implications hang in the air. You find it then, buried deep within the files, a typed memo, and signed, detailing a series of anonymous tips received by the journalist in the weeks leading up to his death. One line catches your eye, a cryptic reference to Project Chimera and The Architect. The words mean nothing to you now, but a faint spark of recognition, a phantom memory, stirs within the recesses of your mind. You remember dismissing it as paranoia at the time, a journalist's wild goose chase. And The Architect. A name whispered in certain circles. A man who builds empires and buries secrets. You continue sifting through the files, your mind already racing, piecing together fragments of information. A police report detailing a stolen laptop from the journalist's apartment, initially dismissed as a common burglary, now seems far more significant. This isn't just about redemption, about reclaiming a tarnished badge. This is about justice, about a truth buried too long. And in its grim reflection, you begin to see the subtle, disturbing connections, the tendrils of a conspiracy stretching from the quiet murder to the thrumming heart of power. They want the truth. The weight of the satchel feels different now, not just a burden, but a purpose. You are in, irrevocably. The game has begun again. The satchel, a rough canvas against your hip, feels less like a burden now and more like a tether, pulling you forward. Each breath drawn in this transient space is a commitment, a silent pact with the ghost of a journalist whose story demands to be finished. The air, once thick with the promise of anonymity, now crackles with a nascent purpose, a call to a past you thought long buried. The city unfurls itself beyond the glass and steel, a labyrinth of concrete and shadow. You navigate it with a muscle memory honed by years, each turn of the wheel a silent prayer for forgotten truths. The destination, a forgotten alleyway behind what was once a bustling printing press, now stands as a monument to neglect. The air grows heavy, thick with the scent of damp brick and urban decay, a perfume of forgotten tragedies. The alley, a narrow maw between two crumbling structures, swallows the light. Graffiti, a chaotic tapestry of names and symbols, bleeds across the brickwork.
You step onto the stained pavement, your boots crunching on fallen debris, shattered glass, forgotten wrappers, the detritus of lives lived and discarded. This is where he fell, the brilliant mind silenced, his final words lost to the indifferent night. You find the former colleague in a dim, cavernous warehouse, its vast interior echoing with the clatter of forklifts and the shouts of unseen workers. He sits hunched over a desk piled high with manifests, his face a roadmap of resignation. His eyes, when they finally meet yours, hold a flicker of old animosity, quickly doused by indifference.
Thought you'd vanished into the ether.
Some ghosts refuse to rest, you reply, your voice steady, despite the tremor of old wounds.
I'm looking into the journalist's case. He snorts, a dry, humorless sound. That dead end? Let it lie, Thorne. It was a street robbery gone wrong. Case closed.
Or rather, case stayed closed, thanks to certain
complications. His gaze drifts to a grimy window, then back to you, sharper now. You remember how it went. Pressure from above. A quick wrap-up. Nobody wanted to dig too deep. And you?
Did you believe it? You press, leaning against the edge of his desk, forcing his attention. He shrugs, a weary slump of his shoulders.
Doesn't matter what I believe then. Doesn't matter now. The official report stands, and you? You're not exactly in a position to reopen old wounds, are you? You lost your badge over less.
He emphasizes the last word, a deliberate barb, a rusty blade twisting in an old wound. He was onto something, you state, ignoring the sting. He made a lot of enemies, asking questions in the wrong places.
That's all. Leave it be, Marcus.
The trail leads you to a bustling, smoke-filled newsroom, a chaotic symphony of clicking keyboards and hushed conversations. Amidst the organized pandemonium, you seek out a veteran reporter, known for his sharp wit and even sharper cynicism.
Thorne, he greets, his voice a low rumble. A blast from the past. What brings the legend back from obscurity? The truth, perhaps, you answer, pulling up a chair uninvited. About the journalist. What did he find?
The veteran reporter leans back, his chair creaking. He takes a long drag from a forgotten cigarette, the cherry glowing fiercely in the gloom.
He was a firebrand, that one. Too close to the flame, always. He poked where he shouldn't have poked.
Asked questions about the new senator, about his old money ties, about a certain. He nods slowly, blowing a plume of smoke towards the ceiling. He was convinced there was a network, a puppet master pulling strings. Something about land deals, offshore accounts, and the swift disappearance of anyone who got too close. He had a contact, a disaffected insider. Promised me he had something concrete, a final piece of the puzzle. And then he was killed, you finish, the words hanging heavy in the air, a bell tolling a decade too late. Coincidence, the reporter muses, a cynical twist to his lips.
Or consequence?
He talked about a legacy package, a dead man's switch, if you will. Something he left behind, just in case.
Be careful, Thorne. You're treading on graves. Some powerful people want those graves undisturbed.
They're not afraid to dig new ones.
The warning, delivered with a casual shrug, carries the weight of a heavy stone. You feel the invisible pressure, the unseen hands already pushing back. Back in the quiet solitude of your temporary lodging, the words of the veteran reporter echo. Legacy package. Dead man's switch. You open the satchel, the weight of the old case files now pressing down with a renewed urgency. You meticulously re-examine every piece of evidence from the original investigation, photographs, reports, the journalist's personal effects. The police had found little beyond a wallet, a watch, and a small, leather-bound notebook, its pages filled with illegible scrawl. You remember the notebook. Dismissed as personal musings, a writer's habit. But the veteran reporter's words, the mention of a dead man's switch, ignite a spark. You retrieve the notebook, its cover worn smooth by time and handling. The scrawl, once a blur of frustration, now seems to hold a rhythm, a hidden pattern. You recall the journalist's known fascination with ancient ciphers, a hobby he'd once discussed at length. You had dismissed it then, a quirky detail, a casual aside in a forgotten conversation. Now, you pore over the pages, your fingers tracing the loops and lines. V7X12P5R9. It looks like a location, but too abstract. Then, below it, almost too faint to see, a tiny symbol, a stylized clock with a broken hand. The journalist's personal mark, a signature he used for his most sensitive notes. The legacy package. This is it. Not a physical object, but a key. The broken clock, a reference to time, perhaps a deadline, or a specific date. The letters and numbers, a coordinate, a code, a hidden message waiting to be deciphered. He hadn't just been investigating, he had been preparing. The journalist had been a threat, not to a common criminal, but to an edifice of power. His murder wasn't a random act, it was an execution, designed to bury a truth too dangerous to surface. You feel the weight of invisible eyes on you, the subtle shift in the city's undercurrents, a growing awareness of an unseen adversary. They had thought the case dead, the investigator disgraced. But a ghost had returned, stirring the mud, and the ripples were already reaching the shore. You are no longer just solving a murder, you are dismantling a conspiracy, piece by dangerous piece. You open the satchel, the worn leather sighing as it yields to your touch. Inside, nestled amongst the usual clutter of a seasoned investigator's life, a spare battery pack, a crumpled map, a half-eaten granola bar, lies a slim, unmarked data stick. Its surface is cool beneath your thumb, a silent promise of secrets held. Beside it, a small, folded note, scrawled in a hand you remember, elegant yet urgent. They're not just watching. They're orchestrating. You slot the stick into your ancient, trusted laptop. The screen flickers, then illuminates with a directory of files, meticulously organized, each bearing the victim's precise timestamp. You begin to trace the lines, the connections blooming like dark flowers on your screen. The victim's research was an intricate tapestry of financial malfeasance. Not as direct donations, but as investments in related ventures, as exorbitant consulting fees paid to shadow firms, as untraceable digital currency transfers that vanished into the ether before resurfacing in campaign-adjacent packs. The journalist had documented it all, the meticulous detail a testament to their relentless pursuit of truth. You lean closer, your breath fogging the screen slightly. The Meridian Group. The name resonates, a faint echo from your past investigations, always just beyond reach. A conglomerate with holdings in everything from logistics to digital infrastructure, its public face pristine, its true nature shrouded in corporate opacity. The victim hadn't just suspected a link,
they had proven it, laid bare the intricate mechanics of influence peddling, the subtle corruption that underpins the candidate's polished facade. This wasn't just campaign finance fraud, it was an elaborate system designed to buy power, to control narratives, to shape the very fabric of the nation. The politician is merely the public face, the charismatic puppet. The Meridian Group, you realize with a jolt, is the hand pulling the strings. The weight of this discovery presses down on you, a physical burden. You feel the urgency, the need to move, to act, to protect this fragile truth. The journalist hadn't just left a legacy package, they had left a ticking time bomb. A name surfaces in the files, a minor player, an analyst who had once worked for the Meridian Group, now living abroad. A long shot, but a lead nonetheless. You book the flight, the destination a blur in your mind, overshadowed by the burning clarity of your purpose. The air is thick with the scent of disinfectant and stale coffee. You move with a practiced nonchalance, your carry-on bag slung over your shoulder, the data stick now secreted in a hidden pocket, a tiny, vital secret. As you approach the customs desk, a figure steps into your path. Not a uniformed officer, but a man in a sharply tailored suit, his eyes flat, devoid of warmth. It's not a question. Two other figures, equally anonymous and sharply dressed, materialize at his shoulders, their presence a silent, undeniable threat. They don't block your path entirely, but their formation makes it clear you are surrounded. Unauthorized by whom, you ask, a sardonic edge to your tone. Unnecessary complications. His hand gestures subtly towards your carry-on. You feel the cold metal of the data stick against your skin, a tiny ember of defiance. They know. They knew you would come. They are here, waiting. The customs line behind you is growing, a restless murmur of passengers. You are acutely aware of the lack of official intervention, the way these men seem to operate with an unspoken authority that transcends the usual protocols. One of the men flanking the leader takes a step closer, his bulk a wall of quiet menace. We can make this difficult, Mister. You meet the leader's gaze, a silent battle of wills. You know what they want. You know what they represent. The unseen hand. This isn't just intimidation, it's a demonstration of their reach, their power. They want to scare you off, to make you drop the investigation. But more than that, they want the data. A sudden, sharp cough from the line behind you. A young woman, clutching a toddler, looks over, annoyed by the delay. It's enough. In that split second, you make your move. Not to fight, but to evade. You pivot sharply, not towards the customs desk, but towards the bustling concourse, a sudden burst of speed carrying you past the startled men. They react, of course, their movements swift, but you have the advantage of surprise, of desperation. You've escaped, for now. You are directly in the crosshairs of a power that moves with invisible hands, a power that has already proven its willingness to eliminate obstacles. The stakes have never been higher. You navigate the directories, each folder a carefully labeled vault of the victim's diligence. Shell corporations dissolve into offshore accounts, their digital tendrils weaving a financial tapestry of deceit. You follow the thread, scrolling through ledger entries, encrypted emails, and scanned documents, a meticulous cartography of illicit wealth. Then, a name. Not a person, but an entity, a holding company registered in a remote island nation. It snags your attention, a tiny burr in the fabric of the sprawling conspiracy. The name. It tugs at a memory, a phantom ache in your professional past. A deep breath catches in your throat, cold and sharp. This holding company, Ethelred Holdings, was briefly flagged in a narcotics investigation you spearheaded, a sprawling operation meant to dismantle a major drug syndicate. You remember the frustration, the way the trail went abruptly cold, the sudden disappearance of a key informant, a young man you had cultivated, whose trust you had painstakingly earned. You had promised him protection, a new life. He vanished, and with him, your case crumbled, leading to the internal review that stripped you of your badge. More than that, they suggest that the informant's disappearance wasn't a random act of a panicked criminal. The notes outline a calculated move, a deliberate severing of a critical information pipeline, orchestrated to protect the very network the journalist was exposing. The funds from that narcotics operation, you now realize with a sickening lurch, were funneled into these same accounts, laundered through Ethelred Holdings. A name, barely a whisper in the victim's meticulous shorthand, appears next to a crucial date, Supervisor D, Oversight. Supervisor D. You knew him. You trusted him. He was your commanding officer during that narcotics investigation, the man who ultimately signed off on closing the case, citing insufficient evidence weeks after your informant vanished. He was the one who had access to every detail of your operation, including the informant's identity and safe house location. The victim's research suggests that Supervisor D, now a high-ranking official within the city's administrative structure and a vocal supporter of the presidential hopeful, had personally overseen the final, fatal stages of the informant's disappearance. Not to protect the informant. The screen's glow reflects in your eyes, but you see only the ghost of that young informant's hopeful face, and the stern, reassuring visage of the man you once considered a mentor. Betrayal, sharp and bitter, floods your senses. The agony of that realization is a physical blow, leaving you breathless. The victim's final entry in that particular file is a date, a flight number, and a cargo manifest reference, all pointing to a specific transaction that occurred shortly after your informant's disappearance. It was a transfer of assets, routed through a shell company linked to Ethelred Holdings, departing from the international airport. The air in the room feels thick with revelation and deceit. The laptop screen flickers, its light a stark reminder of the long night ahead. You grab your coat, the worn leather a familiar comfort against the storm brewing inside you. The victim's notes were precise, detailing a particular shipment, an anomaly in a stream of legitimate cargo. You remember the customs agent you knew back then, a gruff, honest man who'd sometimes bend a rule for the right cause, if it meant catching a bigger fish. He might still be there, or at least, his records might. The sprawling customs facility looms under the industrial glow of floodlights, a fortress of bureaucracy and watchful eyes. You flash your old, expired identification, a calculated risk, to a young, bored-looking security guard. Perhaps just weariness. Old badge, he grunts. Flight 747, Cargo Manifest CX-912. You find the records clerk, a woman whose face you vaguely recall from your days on the force. Her eyes, magnified by thick glasses, narrow as you state your request. She pulls the dusty file, her movements slow and deliberate. The manifest, yellowed and brittle, is laid before you. Your finger traces the lines of alphanumeric code, searching for the anomalous entry the victim had highlighted. There it is. A shipment labeled industrial components, but with a weight discrepancy, and a consignee listed as a phantom address. The customs stamp next to it is faded,
but the initials are clear, DV. Supervisor D.V. Thorne. Your former superior. He had personally cleared this shipment. You look up. Standing opposite you, across the counter, is a figure. The customs supervisor, older now, his face lined, but his eyes still sharp, calculating. He wasn't the gruff agent you remembered. Still digging up old bones, I see. A subtle, almost imperceptible shift in his posture, a tightening around his mouth. He knows why you're here. He remembers. The air thickens, charged with unspoken history, with the ghosts of betrayals past and present. You meet his gaze, unwavering. The hunt isn't just for a killer anymore, it's for the truth that unravels your own past, and the man who orchestrated your downfall. The game has just become agonizingly personal. Your finger traces the brittle, yellowed paper of the manifest, the faint scent of stale dust clinging to your nostrils. Rows of faded ink list cargo, destinations, and dates, a mundane tapestry woven from countless journeys. Your eyes scan for an anomaly, a thread pulled loose from the weave. Then, you find it, a specific cargo container ID, an alphanumeric sequence etched into the page, marked with a tiny, almost imperceptible handwritten asterisk. More telling, the arrival date on the manifest aligns chillingly with the window of the journalist's disappearance. A cold knot tightens in your gut. You remember a brief, hushed internal memo from your old days, concerning an incomplete customs declaration for a high-priority inbound shipment around that time, quickly dismissed and sealed. It was an anomaly, a blip on the radar that vanished under pressure. Now, that blip screams. The records clerk, her thick glasses reflecting the fluorescent hum, watches you, her gaze unreadable. You fold the manifest, the paper creaking softly. I need access to the digital archives for this specific container ID, you state. A ripple in the placid surface of her routine. That's unusual. Those are typically purged after a certain period, or transferred to secure, restricted access. This isn't typical, you counter, holding his gaze. This is Marcus Thorne. It's a challenge, a plea, a promise of trouble. A long, silent moment stretches between you, punctuated only by the distant hum of the building. She sighs, a sound of weary resignation. There was a note. A diverted status. It never officially cleared the system correctly. It's buried deep. She motions towards a bank of servers, a graveyard of data. I can give you access to the terminal, but the encryption keys. The records clerk, after a grudging, lengthy search, located a partial, encrypted file associated with the diverted status of the container. You sit before the screen, lines of code an impenetrable fortress. But you are Marcus Thorne, and you know how to chip away at walls. You recall a backdoor protocol, a relic from a joint agency task force, designed for emergency access in specific scenarios. It's not clean, it's not legal, but it's the only way. Your fingers dance across the keyboard, a symphony of determined taps. Lines of green text scroll past, a digital torrent. The partial file begins to yield, slowly, grudgingly. And then, with a final, triumphant flash, the screen clears. It isn't a single document. It's a fragmented collection, encrypted email exchanges, a ledger of financial transactions, and a series of scanned, handwritten notes. Your eyes devour the text, piece by agonizing piece. One, the architect, appears repeatedly,
linked to directives originating from a shell corporation you recognize, a major donor to the presidential campaign of the prominent politician. Another, the Sentinel, is referenced in connection with the journalist's interference and the need for containment. The ledger details exorbitant payments, not for industrial components, but for discretionary services and logistical support. The dates align precisely with the journalist's investigation into the politician's past. The handwritten notes, scrawled on what appears to be campaign stationery, confirm your worst suspicions. The industrial components were a smokescreen, a cover for the real cargo, the journalist's research, meticulously confiscated and hidden, and a false trail laid to distract investigators. The true nature of the conspiracy unfurls before you, stark and brutal. It wasn't a random act of violence. It was a calculated assassination, orchestrated from the highest echelons of power. This is about corruption so deep it threatens the very foundation of justice. The personal cost, the danger, the enemies you will make, they mean nothing now. You will see this through. You will expose them. You stand, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. The records clerk looks up, startled by the sudden noise. Her eyes, magnified and worried, meet yours. You offer no explanation, no comfort. You simply nod, a silent vow etched onto your face. The game has changed. The stakes are everything. And you, Marcus Thorne, are all in. A code, perhaps, or a rendezvous point, etched in the frantic hand of the journalist, just before the silence fell. The ink is faded but resolute, pointing towards an international nexus of the conspiracy, a place where the threads converge far from the familiar streets you once patrolled. You stand, the air in the cramped, borrowed space suddenly thin. The names in the ledger, once mere entries, now resonate with a chilling purpose: the architect, the courier, the watchman. These aren't aliases for industrial components. They are roles, played by individuals moving with calculated intent, their movements meticulously documented alongside the exorbitant payments. You've been too long in one place. They know. They know you have the ledger, or at least that you are too close to its contents. The air hums with an unseen presence, a tightening net. You move with a sudden, urgent grace, gathering the few essentials: a burner phone, a worn map, the ledger itself tucked securely inside your jacket. Your breath catches, not in panic, but in fierce resolve. The game has shifted. You are no longer merely investigating, you are hunted. The streets outside are a blur of muted city lights, slick with recent rain. You become a phantom, weaving through the late-night pedestrians, each face a potential threat, each passing vehicle a possible tale. Your eyes scan, your senses heightened, reading the subtle language of the urban night. A black sedan, idling too long at a corner, its windows tinted, sends a jolt through you. You duck into an alley, the scent of damp concrete and refuse filling your nostrils, heart a drum against your ribs, not from fear, but from the raw energy of pursuit. The ledger's final entry, the coded destination, screams for immediate action. It's a gamble, a plunge into the lion's den, but it's the only path forward. The clue, a flight number and a specific date, is days old. The notes scrawled alongside it mentioned the courier and a package of immense value. You realize the journalist wasn't just investigating a politician, they were investigating a global operation. The customs area was a critical choke point, a place of exchange. You hail a taxi, giving a neutral destination, then redirecting the driver mid-journey. The driver, oblivious, navigates the city's arteries, while you, pressed against the window, scan the rearview mirror, checking for the telltale glint of headlights that follow too consistently.
The sterile glow of fluorescent lights bathes the scene, illuminating a constant flow of travelers, uniformed personnel, and the pervasive hum of global commerce. You merge with the crowd, a gray figure amidst a kaleidoscope of faces, your awareness stretched thin, scanning for anomalies. The customs hall is a labyrinth of queues and inspection points, a place designed for scrutiny. The politician's influence runs deep, you know this. It could penetrate even here. A sudden, sharp movement catches your eye. Near a restricted access door, two individuals in plain clothes, their posture too rigid, their eyes too keen, scan the crowd. Their gaze sweeps past you, then lingers for a fraction of a second too long on a man whose description loosely matches your own. They are looking for you, for Marcus Thorne. The net is closing. You pivot, blending into a group of arriving passengers, the scent of their foreign travels a sudden, disorienting wave. You recall the journalist's specific note, look for the anomaly in the routine, the package that doesn't fit. It's not about what's being moved, but who is moving it, or who is supposed to receive it. As you navigate the bustling corridors, a name, half obscured by a coffee stain on one of the ledger's pages, finally crystallizes: Elaine Vance.
It's a name you recognize, a minor functionary in the politician's campaign, dismissed months ago for misappropriation of funds. But the dates align with the journalist's last movements. The payments to the courier stopped abruptly after Vance's public dismissal. The journalist wasn't just tracking the politician, but Vance, and Vance was the conduit, the vulnerable link. The package isn't a physical item, it's information, or perhaps, a person. The realization hits you with the force of a physical blow. And now, you know where to start looking for him, if he's still alive. The intensified pursuit only hardens your resolve. You have a name, a target, and a renewed sense of purpose. The chase has just begun. The cold metal of the ledger's clasp still bites into your palm, a phantom ache. Flight 713. Terminal B. The handover. The thorn in her note, you realize with a jolt that shivers down your spine, isn't a reference to you, but a warning about you. She knew. She knew they were watching, knew the history, knew the way they moved. It wasn't a rendezvous point, not exactly. It was a final, desperate plea, a whisper of imminent danger, directed at the only man she believed might listen. You trace the contours of the letters, the ink slightly smudged, as if written in haste, under duress. A payment, certainly, for what? For the entire orchestrated disappearance of a vital piece of evidence, or perhaps, a person. The pieces click into place with an unnerving precision. The handover. It must be the final act of their deception, a crucial exchange of something or someone, designed to vanish beyond the reach of justice. And the chosen location? Your breath hitches, a knot of adrenaline tightening in your chest. This isn't just proof, it's a living, breathing timeline. You glance at the date scrawled next to Flight 713. Today. Hours from now. They are making their move. You close the ledger, the sound a dull thud in the quiet room. The weight of it in your hands feels immense, not just paper and leather, but years of suppressed truth, now unleashed. You have what you came for. More than enough. This ledger, combined with the journalist's dying testament, connects the politician directly to the organization's financial arteries, proving complicity, proving motive, proving the depth of their reach.
The handover is the final thread, visible now in the pattern of their design.
A single, stark image forms in your mind, the politician, serene and smiling on every public screen, a puppet master pulling invisible strings. You know they will be there, or their most trusted operative. They wouldn't trust something this critical to chance.
You can't go to the authorities. Not yet. Your badge is gone, your name tarnished. They would dismiss you, delay, allow the escape. No, this has to be you. You are the thorn in her note. You are the one who has to intercept this. You need to make a move, a bold one, that forces their hand. You reach for the burner phone, the cheap plastic cool against your ear. Something big. Flight 713. Today. Watch for a particular passenger. A high-profile one. You don't name the politician, not directly, but the implication hangs heavy in the air. Don't interfere. Just observe. And if I don't call you back in 3 hours, release everything I sent you. Everything. A pause stretches, thick with unspoken questions. The plan is reckless, you know. You are walking into their lair, a lone wolf challenging an entire pack. They will know you are coming. They will anticipate your every move. The customs area will be a stage, and you, the unwitting actor in a deadly play. But the alternative is to let them win, to let the journalist's sacrifice be in vain, to let the politician ascend to power on a foundation of lies and blood. That is a price you are unwilling to pay. The bitterness of your past failure, the weight of your disgrace, fuels a relentless determination. You gather the ledger, tucking it securely into an inner pocket. The flight details, the time, the specific terminal, etched into your memory. Each movement is deliberate, a ritual of preparation for battle. You feel their eyes on you already, the unseen watchers, the silent enforcers. This isn't just about exposing them, it's about survival. You are bait, yes, but you are also the hook. And as you step out into the encroaching twilight, the air crackles with an electric tension, promising a storm. The final pieces are in place. The trap is set. You step onto the polished tile, the scent of disinfectant and recycled air filling your lungs, a stark contrast to the stale fear that clings to your own skin. Your gaze sweeps across the vast hall, a theater set for a drama only you and a select few understand. You see them, of course. They are not obvious, not in uniform, but the subtle tension in their shoulders, the way their eyes track your movement with a practiced, predatory stillness, gives them away. A customs agent, too keen, too stiff, lingers by a scanner. A woman, seemingly engrossed in a novel near a cafe kiosk, her profile sharp, her gaze flickering. You register each detail, each potential threat, logging them into the cold, precise calculus of survival. Then, your eyes lock onto the true players. Near a private lounge entrance, a figure emerges. His presence is a calculated weight in the room, drawing eyes without demanding attention. This is the architect of shadows, the one whose whisper moves mountains of influence. You recognize him from the periphery of old files, a name whispered in hushed tones among the powerful. Beside him, the politician, a man whose public smile is a carefully constructed facade, now wears a mask of strained composure. His eyes dart, betraying the unease beneath. His polished exterior.
He is a puppet, perhaps, but one complicit in the strings that bind. You walk towards them, a lone figure moving against the tide of anonymous travelers. Your voice, when it comes, is not a shout, but a clear, resonant pronouncement, cutting through the murmur of the hall. The journalist, you begin, your voice carrying further than its volume suggests, catching the attention of nearby travelers, was not a random victim. The mastermind, however, remains impassive, a statue carved from granite, yet a subtle tightening around his mouth betrays a crack in his control. He found the ledgers, you continue, your gaze fixed on the mastermind, the hidden accounts, the network of shell corporations funneling illicit funds. Not just campaign donations, but the price of influence, the cost of silencing dissent. He traced it all back to a single source, a foundation masked by philanthropy, controlled by you. A subtle shift in the room. The customs agent by the scanner straightens, his hand moving towards his hip. The woman with the novel closes her book, her movements fluid and deliberate. The enforcers are activating. The politician, you turn your head slightly, implicating him directly, knew. He benefited. The journalist's final report, the one you never wanted anyone to see, detailed the full extent of this web, the names, the dates, the offshore accounts. Your words are daggers, each one piercing the carefully constructed illusion of legitimacy. The politician now openly sweats, his eyes wide, his public persona crumbling. The journalist was lured to that abandoned factory, you project, your voice gaining urgency as the enforcers begin to converge. Not for an interview, but for an ambush. The woman from the cafe is behind you, a silent predator. You are surrounded. You thought you had erased every trace, you press on, your eyes scanning for an opening, your mind racing, but the journalist was methodical. He had a dead man's switch. A digital package, encrypted, set to release if he failed to check in. It's out there, waiting. And the key, the final piece of the puzzle, is in the hands of someone who watched you operate, someone you underestimated. The mastermind finally moves, a slight inclination of his head. It is a command. The enforcers surge forward. You duck under the swing of a large fist, the air whistling past your ear. You spin, using the momentum to push a nearby baggage cart into the path of another enforcer, sending a cascade of luggage tumbling. The woman behind you is fast, her hand reaching for your arm, but you anticipate the move, stepping sharply to the side. Your elbow connects with her jaw, a sharp, satisfying crack that momentarily stuns her. The evidence is already making its way to the public, you shout, hoping the general commotion and the public setting will offer a sliver of protection, a witness to the unfolding truth. The full story of the journalist's murder, the politician's complicity. You see the glint, the sudden, lethal intent. This is not about retrieval anymore, it is about elimination. You are a loose end, a dangerous truth-teller. You throw yourself to the side, rolling over a row of unattended suitcases. The crack of the weapon is sharp, echoing strangely in the vast hall, momentarily freezing the flow of travelers. A collective gasp rises, then a panicked scramble as people realize the danger. The politician, seeing the weapon, seeing the public reaction, is utterly exposed. His carefully constructed world is collapsing around him. It's already out there. The journalist ensured it. The enforcers are closing in, their movements efficient and ruthless. You are trapped, the exits blocked by their sheer numbers and the terrified surge of fleeing passengers. He knows you are cornered. He knows the game, for him, is almost won. But you have planted the seed. The truth, like a relentless vine, has begun to spread. Your survival now hinges on a desperate gamble, a final, audacious act in the heart of their domain. Their entry is a controlled explosion of movement and authority, a swift tide washing over the panicked eddies of travelers and the ruthless efficiency of the enforcers. You, Marcus, are a knot of coiled adrenaline, your gaze locked on the mastermind, the faint, chilling smile still playing on his lips even as the laser sights of a dozen rifles find purchase on his chest. The air thrums with shouted commands, the metallic click of safeties disengaging, and the desperate cries of the innocent caught in the crossfire of allegiance. You had seen the glint of their approach, a ripple of movement at the far end of the terminal, just as the enforcers had begun to funnel the terrified passengers, tightening the net around you. It was a gamble, a desperate, whispered call made hours ago, based on an educated guess and a sliver of hope that the fragmented data from the journalist's hidden drive had truly found its way to the right hands. Now, the gamble pays off. The enforcers, once so composed, are caught flat-footed. They are professionals, yes, but not against this scale of organized resistance. You watch, a silent observer in the eye of the storm, as the mastermind, his smile finally faltering, is roughly taken down. He is cuffed, his expensive suit rumpled, his aura of untouchable power abruptly diminished. The politician, whose name had been whispered in the shadowy corners of the conspiracy, is found huddled near a luggage carousel, attempting a pathetic impersonation of a bewildered traveler. The public, streaming live from their phones, captures his fall from grace, a digital judgment broadcast across the globe. A hand claps your shoulder, firm and familiar. Thorne. You always did have a knack for turning a dead end into a highway. It's a colleague, his expression a mix of weary relief and grudging respect. Thought we'd lost you back there. You simply nod, the tension finally beginning to drain from your limbs, leaving behind a profound, aching fatigue. The immediate danger has passed, but the echoes of the chaos linger, a persistent hum in your ears. Hours later, the sterile hum of a federal debriefing chamber replaces the airport's residual panic. You detail the evidence found on the mastermind, encrypted communications, financial ledgers tracing illicit funds through shell corporations. The politician was merely a public face, a useful pawn. The mastermind we apprehended today? The audio file, played moments before, confirms it, a hushed conversation between the mastermind and an unknown voice, discussing the journalist's elimination and referring to a council that governs their actions. The voice on the recording is distorted, impossible to identify, but the implication is clear: the true architects of this conspiracy remain hidden, their reach extending beyond the politician and his captured enforcer. You have severed a limb, but the heart of the beast still beats. The weight of this knowledge presses down on you, Marcus. Redemption is not a clean, singular act, it is a continuous battle. You have brought down a significant piece of the puzzle, exposed a powerful politician, and avenged, in part, the journalist whose sacrifice had haunted you for years. The initial reports are already flooding the news channels, painting a picture of corruption and systemic rot. The public reaction is a volatile mix of outrage and disbelief, their faith in institutions shaken to its core. But the personal cost is etched into your very being. The ghosts of your past, the failure that cost you your badge, they haven't entirely vanished. They stand beside you, witnesses to your fight, but also reminders of the pain. A senior agent, a woman with sharp, observant eyes, offers you a glass of water.
"You did good, Thorne," she says, her voice quiet. "More than good. You blew the lid off something rotten." You take the water, the coolness a small comfort against the dryness in your throat. Your gaze drifts to the panoramic window, the city lights shimmering in the pre-dawn gloom. The fight isn't over. Your redemption, you realize, isn't a destination. Fluorescent. Lights hum with an indifferent drone overhead, casting a sterile glow on the polished linoleum. Around you, the murmur of 100 languages weaves a tapestry of departure and arrival, a constant ebb and flow that mirrors the restless current within your own chest. You stand by a frosted glass partition, a barrier between the inbound chaos and the quiet anticipation of those waiting. Your carry-on, light and unburdened, rests at your feet. It holds little, yet feels like a monument to the heavy weight you shed. The metallic tang of recycled air fills your lungs, and you taste the faint, lingering bitterness of a battle fought, and, in part, won. The image of the journalist's apartment, stark and violated, still flickers behind your eyelids. The carefully placed evidence, the meticulously crafted misdirection, a ghost from your past, now finally given a voice. You remember the politician's slick smile, the calculated charm that masked a predator's intent. The way the pieces had slowly, agonizingly, begun to align, each revelation a jolt to your system, pulling you deeper into the labyrinth. You recall the hushed whispers of your old colleague, the hesitant glance of the witness, each small thread leading to the larger, more sinister pattern. The immediate threat, the architect of that particular deception, is contained. The public pronouncements have been carefully worded, the official narrative spun with precision. The politician, stripped of his gilded facade, now faces the reckoning he so deftly avoided for years. The evidence, painstakingly gathered and presented by your own hand, left no room for doubt, no crevice for escape. That much, at least, is a victory. A concrete slab of justice laid upon the shifting sands of power. Yet, you remember the words, the chilling casualness with which the captured operative spoke of the council, their vast, unseen network. Their influence, like roots beneath bedrock, still holds firm. You are acutely aware that you've merely pruned a branch, not felled the tree. The true puppet masters remain elusive, their faces hidden behind a veil of wealth and untouchable authority. The fight isn't over, not truly. It's merely shifted. A sigh, deep and ragged, escapes you. It's not defeat, but the weary acknowledgement of a war that transcends any single battle. It had been the anchor, dragging you down, eroding your sense of worth. Now, that anchor has been severed. The truth, raw and unvarnished, has been brought into the light, even if that light doesn't illuminate every hidden corner. You touch the stubble on your jaw, the rough texture a testament to the sleepless nights, the frantic pursuit. The exhaustion is profound, a deep ache in your bones, but beneath it, something else stirs. A quiet hum of satisfaction, a sense of purpose rekindled. You didn't just expose a criminal, you redeemed a part of yourself. You proved to yourself, if no one else, that the detective Marcus Thorne still had a role to play, a moral compass that, despite its wobble, still pointed true north. The weight of your badge, once a source of pride, then a symbol of your downfall, feels different now. It's no longer a physical object, but an internal standard. You don't need the brass and leather to uphold justice. The past, with its bitter taste of failure, no longer defines your present. It informs it, yes, sharpens your resolve, but it doesn't chain you. A new clarity settles over you, like the thin morning light filtering through the customs hall windows. The path ahead is not clear, not yet. There's no grand return, no welcoming committee. The system that cast you out isn't ready to embrace you again, and perhaps, you're not ready to be embraced. Stronger, perhaps, than ever before. You watch a family, their faces alight with reunion, embrace beyond the partition. A brief, poignant pang of something indefinable, then it passes. An open road. The call for your flight echoes over the intercom, a disembodied voice signaling the next step. You pick up your bag, the worn strap. Familiar in your hand. It carries the scent of possibility, of unanswered questions, and a quiet, unyielding resolve. You walk towards the gate, not knowing where you're going, but knowing exactly who you are. Marcus Thorne. And the hunt, in its own way, has only just begun.